Hello, everybody. Better Spaces is a health and happiness solution for today's hybrid workplace. My name is Dr. Paul Kachowa with PAR5 Physical Therapy in Randolph, New Jersey, and I partnered with them to give you this easy and educational workday session. Now, today's session is strategies for healthy aging, maintaining fitness over time. Okay, a little bit about me. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, received my doctorate from Mercy University in Dobbs Ferry, New York. I also have an exercise physiology degree. I'm a certified orthopedic clinical specialist, also certified dry needling specialist, certified golf fitness instructor. And I've been in the PT field for over 25 years. So the stuff that we're going to be talking about today, hopefully will be helpful for you as you age and will be useful with a lot of information. So let me pull up my slides here. All right, so here we are. Awesome. Hopefully you guys can see this, my slides. Strategies for healthy aging, maintaining fitness over time. All right, so one disclaimer, because I'm a medical professional, I have to give this disclaimer that this is not physical therapy. The information that we're going to be going over in the little class today is a very broad population aimed. It's aimed at a broad population with general information. If you're dealing with something specific, whether it be an injury or something, make sure that you get a thorough physical exam to have all the associated factors and all the root causes of your problem addressed. Okay? All right. So with that out of the way, also, if you do have questions while I'm working through here, you could use the chat function there. All right, and then let me know if anything is an issue. Okay, so as we age, our health and wellness needs, they evolve over time, right? They require attention to different aspects to maintain this overall well-being, right? For example, our physical health, right? Regular exercise, probably can't stress that enough, right? Strength training, flexibility, and cardiovascular exercise. Those are things that we need to do to maintain our body. And also nutrition, right? We need to have a balanced diet that's rich in nutrients, has vitamins and minerals and fiber and protein, all that we need, especially protein as we age, to prevent metabolic issues and chronic conditions, okay? And then also it's important to have a regular health screening. You know, we always think about that annual physical, right? What do you call it? Checking your blood pressure, diabetes screening, have your sugar checked, cancer screenings, you know, everything that's recommended based upon your age by your healthcare professional, your physician. And then finally, we need to talk about mobility and flexibility, right? So movement practices, we need to engage with them on a regular basis to maintain and improve our mobility and flexibility as we age, you know, such as like just regular stretching, yoga, tai chi to prevent falls and maintain our independence. Because ultimately, what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to fulfill our role in society and have a fulfilling life as we age. You know, that last 2 decades of life or the last decade of life, we never really want to be confined into a wheelchair or not be able to play with our grandkids. We want to be able to enjoy it, okay? Another thing that we have to think about is mental health, right? Social interaction is important as we age. It prevents loneliness and depression. You need cognitive stimulation as well. You know, keep the mind sharp. Always think about like taking up a new hobby or learning new things to keep your mind active, right? And also stress management. We want to be able to manage our stress with techniques and relaxation techniques to reduce our reaction to stress, our fight or flight response, and promote mental well-being, right? And then also, we need to know when it's time to seek support, right? Being able to be open to seeking professional help when needed and not stigmatize it, all right? And then emotional health. Emotional health is, you know, based upon self-care practices as well. You want to engage in activities that promote relaxation, enjoyment, you know, fun stuff like hobbies, spending time in nature, going for walks, playing a sport, other creative type of creative pursuits, right? And then also the acceptance of aging, right? We want to be able to embrace this natural aging process and focus on things that are within our control, such as maintaining our health and pursuing meaningful activities and having a purpose in life, right? And grow with positive relationships, right? With yourself, with oneself, and with others, right? Fostering a sense of community and purpose, right? I mentioned purpose earlier. Group fitness classes are a good environment to build that community aspect and also build accountability for maintaining one's health and fitness. All right. And then preventative care. We want to talk about immunizations, right? You want to stay up to date on vaccinations, flu shots, pneumonia vaccines, and other immunizations that are for older adults. If we do have a chronic disease, we want to be able to manage that successfully, such as diabetes, hypertension, arthritis, any cardio or heart diseases as well. We want to use medication as needed, but also lifestyle modifications and regular exercise and monitoring of our status as we go. All right. And then medication management as well. You want to ensure proper management of a variety of medications, especially if you're taking multiple, so that you understand the dosages, the potential side effects, and interactions if you do take multiple medications. All right. And then financial and legal planning, retirement and estate planning, that should already be automatic. And then environmental conditions, especially home safety. People who want to live and age in place in the home, we want to be able to assess their environment, making modifications as needed to reduce fall risk, right? We want to install grab bars when needed, make sure that we have good lighting, and also removing tripping hazards, right? So you're going to take a look around your house. You want to think, all right, so some things that are disorganized or they're a little messy, you want to get things off the floor, making sure that we have good light in our hallways and the stairways that have good railings as well. And then accessibility. As we age, we want to ensure that we have access to essential services and transportation options, and any adaptive living spaces to accommodate or adapt to the changing mobility needs, right? So if we're aging and say, a grandparent or great grandparent, they might not be able to drive because they can't see at night. We want to see all right, there's a lot of other options around that can help people stay active within the community, be able to get from point A to point B without them driving. All right. So our fitness needs, right? It's like investing with your finances. I always use this analogy that, if you have money in the bank and you're putting it in there, we want to try and, save money for our 401k or IRA or something like that, retirement account, so that when you do retire in your later years, you're able to take that money out and use it. And fitness and wellness is very similar, right? It's never too late to start to invest in your fitness bank, right? All right. So if you've ever been to any other of my talks, this video will probably seem familiar. It's the video of the stability and mobility routine. The body functions on this alternating pattern of stability and mobility. If this pattern is disrupted, then pain or injury is usually the results, right? So when we're thinking about movement, mobility, strength, flexibility, and if you have a particular problem, like say orthopedic problem, like low back pain or knee pain, we're looking at those segments in this chart here and making sure that they are fulfilling their role, and also the joints and segments above and below are also fulfilling their role. Most of the time people come to see me, they have back pain, one of the most common injuries, problems that people have, and they have back pain not because of a back issue, even though it might be like a herniated disc or osteoarthritis or something like that. That happens. That's normal. That's a normal part of aging. As we age, our joints will degenerate, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a lot of pain. So when we're looking at and assessing the body, we have to look at, is your thoracic spine, your T-spine, is that mobile? Because that's a mobile segment. And are your hips mobile, right? So those are the segments above and below the lower back, which is supposed to be a stable segment. And if we lose the ability for these segments over here to fulfill their role, let's say, for example, your hips are tight, they fail at being at a mobile segment. They actually turn into a stable segment because they're so tight, they lose range of motion. So as you're moving through life and through your daily activities, what tends to happen is that your back becomes unstable. It reverses this role. It becomes a mobile segment because your body's trying to compensate for loss of mobility at another segment. Hopefully that makes sense. If anything kind of like doesn't make sense, make sure that you use the chat. Let me know if you're not picking up what I'm putting down. But whenever you get treated for something, either you go to your physician, physical therapist, chiropractor, make sure that they are assessing up and down this chain, up and down the segment that you are dealing with. If it's knee pain, you got to look at your foot and ankle and also at your hip. Because if you just focus on where the pain is and try and just treat that area, it'll feel good, but it will come back. So that's why we get chronic conditions, because we really haven't addressed the root cause of the problem. Like, for example, the back pain is because of a tight hip. All right. So talk about decades, right? 20s all the way up to 60s and beyond. Like, what specific do we need to work on? So if you're in your 20s, you're young, right? You want to establish a fitness foundation. You want to build strength, cardiovascular endurance, and flexibility. You want to explore. This is your time to be creative and explore various forms of exercise to find activities that you like to do that are enjoyable and sustainable, right? Because if exercise feels like it's work, then you're not going to be able to maintain it or try and have fun or enjoy doing it over the years, right? We definitely want to incorporate resistance training at this time, so that, again, like that fitness bank, you want to build muscle mass as much as possible and increase your bone density at this time, which will help you sustain your long-term health. And we also want to really emphasize functional fitness, right? We want to mimic real life movements, right? So we want to improve overall athleticism and prevent injuries. There's going to be some, maybe overuse injuries that we want to avoid too. So we want to make sure that our exercise, our sport, our workout routines are varied so that we can develop this wide vocabulary of capacity at this time. All right. And then in our 30s, you want to maintain that fitness routine, right? You want to make adjustments as needed to accommodate maybe lifestyle changes, changes in work, family, home, whatever. And also, as things increase in stress during this time of your life, you want to prioritize that management of that stress, right? You want to use exercise as a tool for stress relief and well-being, and as your career and family responsibilities increase your stress levels. I can't tell you how many times people have said that, they're injured, they can't exercise, but they love to exercise. They love to run, they love to play golf, they love to do something because that's their stress outlet. A lot of runners come to see me and say, that's my me time. That's my time to decompress. And if they can't run, then that really throws a wrench in everything. They feel a little agitated, always in a bad mood because they don't have that stress outlet. Another thing that we want to add, think about adding in our 30s, is high intensity interval training, or HIIT, right? We want to maximize that calorie burn, improve the cardiovascular endurance, your fitness, and maintain the metabolism, because metabolism will start to wane over the years. It'll slow down, but you can maintain it with vigorous exercise and to your tolerance, right? So everyone's definition or level of vigorous exercise varies from person to person, all right? And into our 40s, right? We want to adapt. We want to adapt to our changing metabolism. We want to make sure that our nutrition and exercise habits are on point, right? To accommodate these changes that happen, these hormonal fluctuations as we age. We want to focus on joint health. Now, exercises that could do that are, working on joint mobility and stability, such as yoga, Pilates, low impact strength training. Here we want to be able to think about rest and recovery as well, because exercise, sports, whatever, in your 40s are much different than in your 20s, where you can do whatever you want in your 20s and not feel like, oh, you need to take 2 days recover. So we want to prioritize adequate rest and recovery at this time to prevent any of those overuses that we mentioned earlier and support muscle repair and growth. Okay, so I like to, the rule of thumb that I tell people is that whatever your workout routine is, for every decade of life, your recovery, stretching, your mobility component should be that percentage of your workout. All right, so if you're in your 40s right now, you want to be spending at least 40% of your workout exercise time on mobility, recovery, stretching, stuff like that. All right, so that increases as we age. When you're in your 50s, you want to spend 50% of your workout time on mobility, stretching, recovery work, because as we age, our body, our tissue has less ability to maintain hydration, to maintain water. So we want to drink as much water as we can to stay hydrated, to maintain the suppleness of our tissues. Rule of thumb for water intake per day is half of your body weight in ounces. All right, so you kind of just take a look at that, whatever pounds you are, half it, and then that's how many ounces you should drink in a day, especially if you're active. Okay, so we want to prioritize mobility, stretching as we age into our 40s, maintain your range of motion so that the strength that you have, you're able to kind of express that through your full range of motion. All right, now 50s. You want to maintain your muscle mass and strength. You want to continue with resistance exercises and preserve this muscle mass that we have, which will naturally decline with age. Okay, exercise and muscle strength is your joint armor. Okay, I'll say it again. To protect your joints, your joint armor is the muscles around that joint. Okay, we want to emphasize balance and coordination as well, because now we want to be able to reduce the risk of falls and maintain our independence. Also, we want to monitor our heart health, right? Pay attention to cardiovascular fitness as much as you can, and incorporate aerobic activities that support your heart health. One of the tests that usually I give to clients that come see me, the first thing is that we do a complete body diagnostic. We look at your posture and we look at how you move, and we look at you from head to toe. It doesn't matter what body part you're here to see me, but one of the tests that I do is see how people can squat, right? What's your range of motion in squatting, and can you get on the floor and stand up off the floor? All right. There's a lot of research and studies that show that as we age, the ability or inability to get up and down off the floor is related to your mortality rate. All right. So if a lot of times this past week, I asked somebody to do that, and the client was like, I've never been on the floor in years. I'm like, well, how do you play with your kids, your grandkids? And she said that she just sits on the couch and they come to her and she has to wait for them. And I'm like, I don't know if that's really good. So we want to be able to kind of express these ranges of motion that we want and be able to get down off the floor and be able to get up off the floor in case there's an emergency, but also be able to play and move around with the young ones, right? Oh, there's a question. So someone says that they broke their back and they're in your low 60s. Controlled weightlifting, they try to do controlled weightlifting, but feel no strength in my neck and pain at the end of the day. I do stretch. Any other suggestions? So you've had a neck fracture 2012, and it's sort of like, well, by this time, I don't know, 12 years later, 4 years later, you should have healed from that, right? So whatever trauma you've had 10 years ago, your body is very resilient and things have healed. There's a lot of other questions that I would ask this person. How long were they in the neck brace? And did they have some strengthening of the neck after they get out of that neck brace? And, these muscles that hold your head up, your head, weighs about 12 to 14 pounds, right? But for every angle, every degree forward your head is, right? If it's really forward, it relatively increases in weight, such that like if you're down here at 60 degrees forward, your head relatively weighs 60 pounds. So that's like having a small child on the back of your head as you're upright. So we want to be able to one, have enough range of motion to get your chin back and have your head over your shoulders, because relatively, if you're the straighter you are, the less the muscles in the back of the neck have to work, right? So that can contribute to the fatigue that people get when they're upright and having neck issues, because, you know, everything that we do functionally is down in front of us. We're always looking down in front of us. And this is where we spend 90% of our data looking here. We never look up, right? So we always lose that range of motion. But we want to at least be able to be straight. So the test that I give people to see, all right, do you feel straight? What is straight for you? What's good posture? Is to stand up against the wall. So what you do is you just get up, find a blank wall, you put your hips, shoulders, and head against the wall. And then you say, all right, what does that feel like? All right, can you hold that position? When you do put your head against the wall, is your chin or head flat? Is it horizontal? Or if you're so hunched over that when you put your head on the wall, you're looking up like this, is your chin up, right? So we want to look and see, the wall is our reference point, right? What's vertical? And it gives you a feel of like, all right, am I straight? Am I vertical? Am I bent over? So that's a couple of things that you want to think about. You know, there's a lot of other exercises that we could prescribe in other positions, being on your hands and knees and trying to control the head in that position. That I think would also help with strengthening and improving the endurance of those smaller muscles around your neck to maintain your posture throughout the day. So those are a couple points. All right. All right, so let's go to the 60s and beyond, right? So this is where you're at. We want to prioritize functional movements. And the exercises that you've been doing with weight training up to this point, we want to be able to include squats. We want to include lunges. And we want to include movements that promote flexibility and range of motion. So if you're doing an exercise like a squat, we want to move through a full range of motion, not like a mini squat or partial squat. That's pointless. I think that partial squatting increases the stress on your knees, because actually after 90 degrees of knee bending, if you squat and you're going past parallel, the compressive force on your knee actually reduces, right? So we have billions of people who live in the other side of the world, in Asia, India, that can squat with full range of motion and can be comfortable in that position and not have joint problems. And I'm going to make a comment that my theory, my hypothesis of why there's so many knee issues in Western society today and knee replacements is because we don't squat down to the floor. We stop and sit so much as we get into school age. We spend so much time at this 90-degree bend that we lose the ability. I mean, like, you look at a toddler who hasn't gone to school, maybe like 5 years old, 4 years old, and they have full range of motion squat. You can get that back with practice, but with many, many decades where you're just sitting in a chair and not expressing full range of motion of your knee, if you don't use it, you lose it. All right. Another thing that we want to think about with 60s and over is adaptive exercise routines. All right, so we want to modify and scale the intensity levels as needed, right? Accommodate any physical limitations or health conditions. So if you are dealing with arthritis or something, there are ways to still strengthen those joints and continue to improve those range of motions, but not with too much stress, right? There's always scaling that we can do, modifications of the exercise. And then also we want to include low impact activities, right? Low impact activities like walking, water aerobics. I love water aerobics because you can express this full range of motion in a less than weight bearing position, or gentle yoga. We can reduce stress in joints while still reaping the benefits of exercise. So those are some things that we want to think about. It's like, we never want to stop or say like, hey, my physician said, oh, I should never squat or should stop doing these exercises. Well, there's ways that we can scale around not being able to squat. But my opinion is this, that if you're aging, you should always be able to squat, right? If you're getting off the chair or the toilet, that's a squat, right? And that's what we want to get. All right. So, just a review. Let me turn this off. Just a review, we want to work on functional movements, work on balance, coordination, cardiovascular stuff. Some of the tests that I give people is, how high can you reach? An overhead reach, what's your range of motion? We look at their squatting. Can they pick something up off the floor like a deadlift? And can you express that same type of motion that picking up off the floor in a single leg stance? So we incorporate balance for that. So there's a lot of things that we can do to assess your mobility and improve or maintain it. So, but what I'll say is that all of this stuff, more and more, like the overhead reach, squat, and single deadlift, I'll be going over next week, right? So I think, let me just take a look here. Next week I'll be back, and we're going to be talking about more about this stuff. Okay, so that is it for me. Let me see if we have any more questions in the comments here. Let's see here. Nope. Okay. So it's a little snowed in today. This is not my my normal setup. Usually I'm in the clinic and I'm able to kind of stand and move and do a lot more things. But because of the snow, we're snowed in. So this is my basement. All right. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. You could look for this sessions and many more on demand in the Better Spaces app. So I'll be back next week, next Tuesday, February 20th, and we're going to be talking about pain-free mobility. We're going to do a lot more about how to unlock joints and improve your movement. It's the importance of joint mobility in daily life, exercise, and the role of mobility in preventing injuries, enhancing flexibility, promoting pain-free movement. All right, and we'll definitely include, unless it snows again really heavily next week, we'll definitely include a series of dynamic stretches and exercises to improve joint mobility and empower you to move more freely and comfortably. All right. All right. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, you can always email me here at paul@par5pt.com or team@betterspaces.com. All right. Thank you very much for joining me, and be well.